Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Card Crunchers podcast. I'm here as always with Pokey Thinking, aka Jamie, and today we're going to be talking about all things TCG related as always. And let's just kick it off. Last episode we spoke about One Piece. If the anime success would impact the TCG, I hadn't even watched it at that point. I just know that it was well received. You had only watched one episode. Yeah, is your opinion still the same as last week's, or what? You know, we've both finished it at this point as well, by the way. So we've both watched it. So yeah, what do you think?
I think it's going to be very rare that we revisit a topic the exact
Yeah,
episode afterwards, but this is definitely one of those where we felt like we had to. So
yeah,
yeah, we did talk about, obviously, did we think that would the live action series affect the TCG in terms of like bringing that popularity over? And I think from what I remember, we agreed that it definitely could do because if we're likely to buy things, then others might do as well. So obviously, we both really enjoyed it. We haven't stopped talking about it since we finished. So many of my friends have watched it now. Like people I work with have watched it and really enjoyed it.
yeah,
It feels like it's definitely the most popular thing right now. Um, it's done really well around the world. I think it's number one in more than half the world right now, and it's the most successful Netflix series ever created. So it's done really well. In terms of like, does it get people to buy more cards? I'd already bought some One Piece stuff
yeah.
over the last, well, since the game came out over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. But I hadn't really bought anything for a while, and I have now since watching.
Oh,
I
you've
went
bought
straight,
more.
yeah,
You
I
have.
went straight onto Facebook. I bought a case of OP5
Yes.
to
Yeah.
sell anyway for streaming. I wanted to get some One Piece anyway. I'm in the process of getting English, just trying to sort out distro and stuff. But I bought a case of that, and then I ended up buying a fair amount of singles for myself, winner stamped cards, that kind of thing. Nami cards, of course. So I guess what we discussed really was the truth that it does in fact influence what people buy, and I very rarely am I ever do I ever kind of, I don't know if it's, I guess it is kind of in essence FOMO really. Maybe not so much FOMO in terms of like these cards are like you have to get them right now, certain thing because they've just come
Yeah.
out. Like these were cards, some of them that had been out a while, but it definitely made me want to pick up these cards. And I fear that I perhaps might be down a rabbit hole here, uh,
Yeah.
which we
So
discussed about yourself getting some, and I ended up doing it myself. So
yeah. So I mean, this is actually quite an interesting topic that I had a thought about the other day, and I completely forgot to note this down. So we're touching to that in a second, but yeah, I mean, obviously you have picked some up. I still haven't actually picked some up to this point. I mean, to be fair, I'm getting a OP5 booster box off you when you get your case, so I guess that kind of counts. But I'm as much as I want to get involved, I'm putting it off a little bit just because of money and things like that. Because I know how quickly that escalates, especially when it's like a new TCG you're getting into. It's just like
yeah,
there's so much there that you'll want when you start looking into it. Um, but in terms of like, it's a weird one because it feels like hype, right? It feels like FOMO. It's like that those classic like hype and FOMO things that
yeah,
happen in other TCGs or happen in certain sets like Japanese Pokemon sets and things like that. But I feel like there's a little bit of a difference this time round, perhaps. Like hype and FOMO, it kind of brings along excitement with it. So like when
yeah,
now that you're buying some of these cards, like I know your intention is not like the hype and FOMO isn't coming from I'm gonna make 2 to 5x my money. Like I think there's a difference between that hype and FOMO and then genuine interest hype and FOMO. Like the live actions come out, I'm all for One Piece. I'm completely invested in the story and the characters. Now I want to buy some cards. So yeah, it's kind of like a different FOMO in a way. To perhaps what we're used to with other things. Same with Lorcana. Like a lot of that hype and FOMO is more of that investment money side of things. It's not like
yeah.
don't get me wrong, there's going to be some genuine interest there, but it's just, I feel like it's a different type of hype and FOMO. But it feels really good. I know what you mean. Like when you get into something like that and you're excited and there's a lot to learn, and all the different cards, the prize cards and things like that to learn about and then potentially buy is so exciting. It's super, super fun. And I mean that's what it's all about when it comes to like collecting, right? Is getting into that sort of rabbit hole where it's super exciting. Now, obviously, your opinion has changed slightly, and you do think it will get more people into the TCG. I mean, I'm going to make an assumption here and assume that you specifically mean people that are already in TCGs anyway. Like, it's not, you said people from work watched it. I mean, I suggested the show to my dad. He's been watching it. He absolutely loves it as well. It's the people watching this on Netflix that don't collect card games aren't then going to start collecting One Piece. Like, that is extremely unlikely. It's going to be people like us who were already in TCGs and then just watched it, and now we're like, okay, let's pick up some of those cards. So I'd imagine that's probably where we sit on that one, I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense. It isn't going to be the average person that doesn't collect cards buying. I think it's an interesting one. I think I don't know. I'm not really going to look into it enough because it's going to be really kind of impossible to do in terms of like, is it going to affect the market of the cards in terms of values? I mean, all the cards I bought, from what I can see, were all. I bought like a couple of bundle lots of people where they were selling the same similar kind of process I do when I'm buying other TCGs. So I got pretty much all the cards under market by quite a significant amount, and I think there was only one card that I was eyeing up that was kind of a bigger purchase. But I'll be honest, I usually kind of sit on things and kind of leave it to see if I'm interested, and it's unlikely unless it comes up for like, if it comes up for a mad price, then I might be. But I think there's enough people out there, from what I've seen already, that are actually generally just buying these cards anyway. A lot of them buy them to grade them because One Piece does well in terms of grading. I don't even think I've seen anything less than a BGS 10 for One Piece, honestly. So it kind of makes sense. I think, I'm interested to see going forward what happens, because obviously the 4th English set is coming out soon. The 5th Japanese set has just come out. So it'll be interesting to see. Just see where it goes. I think with TCGs, it's always exciting. I always get excited about trying different TCGs and opening different cards. I think when we talked about it kind of rolls in terms of like content creation and kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis with TCGs. I think if you stick to one game, it can get quite repetitive and tedious. Whereas doing little bits, I'm generally really excited to open up some One Piece of people on the stream just to see the cards and that. I mean, I've opened One Piece before, and I don't think I've opened anything since I opened up the first 2 sets when it first came out and it was hot, and I haven't really opened much since. I had some packs opened for me for the last, I want to say the last Japanese set, but apart from that, I think it's I'm interested. I think it's one of those things where you get kind of a little bit bored with other TCGs, like Pokemon, for instance. Like, obviously we got 151 coming out, which is quite exciting. The English will be good, but even then, like, bar the streaming stuff, I don't see myself personally opening up a load of that. I think Pokemon feels very samey to me at the moment, and I think even though the cards look great, don't get me wrong, I think there's nothing Pokemon could do right now to sort of get me excited again for a bit. I think I need probably a little bit of time away from Pokemon collection personally.
I guess it's not the same. Like, you're probably looking for something that matches the excitement you have right now for One Piece, right? And they're not doing that. Like,
no, they're not. And I think Flesh and Blood's when I talk about Flesh and Blood, and I will roll this into the next topic really once we finish the One Piece. But with like Flesh and Blood, I've never not been excited opening it, and I've opened some sets I've opened like 25 cases of the same set, and I'm excited still. And I don't think there'll be another TCG that will ever bring that to me like
Yeah.
Flesh and Blood does, because I never had it before Flesh and Blood. Like even then, like when I was opening up Pokemon, it is get tedious. I mean, the sets in Pokemon are bigger than Flesh and Blood, but I think because there's no once you've with Pokemon, it's very easy to complete the set by opening up. You can almost guarantee you'll complete a set by opening up a case, and it's
Of Pokemon.
yeah, like bar the obviously the big few like the alts and stuff like that.
Oh, you just mean
But
like the base kind of like.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can. But I think with because if you look at, I mean, you look at the most recent sets. You obviously got the illustrator cards. You only get three
Yeah.
per box, so it's unlike you'll get all those, but they're cheap. So there's nothing that you because the most expensive card in most Pokemon sets now is 50 to 75 quid in
Yeah.
English. The cards that you're going to have left, you need to complete the set, are going to cost
Yeah.
very little.
Yeah.
Whereas with like Flesh and Blood, you open up, okay, a case and a half, which is the same equivalent to a Pokemon
Yeah.
case. You're not going to touch the sides.
Yeah.
And I think there's always like those chases, and I think a lot of other card games, Magic, there's always stuff to try complete. Where Pokemon, I think there's just not that, and I think that's probably we've talked about it before. I think not having those really expensive high chase cards really detracts it for me. I think it's great for players, right? I think because there's nothing that's that ridiculously expensive,
Yeah.
and that's why Pokemon is highly regarded as one of the cheapest TCGs to play compared to the high
Yeah, it
cost
is.
of Flesh
Yeah.
and Blood, Magic, and stuff. But I think obviously I see it from a collector side and an investor side rather than a player side.
Yeah, it is really different to the rest. It's kind of like its own. Yeah, in terms of TCGs, when you start looking at other ones and comparing them, it does just kind of really stand out on its own for which is good, I guess. It shows that
Yeah,
they can do their own thing and it's still like massively successful. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like same with White Shores. Like you open a case. You'll get play sets. You get play sets, but in terms of like cards that a collector would want to pull, I mean, you're getting what, like 2 SPs. There's probably a secret rare, like and some other stuff that you're just not going to get. Yeah, opening. I mean, yeah, opening. You'd have to do do a lot. Um, but yeah, just before we move on from One Piece, I mean, I think we've both seen that there's some live action promos. So you've actually got some of the characters of the live action on the cards, but for some reason I haven't seen a Nami live action promo yet, which is very disappointing. If I'm honest with you, I think I've only. Do you remember who it was? I think it was Luffy and one of the other guys. I can't remember who it was now.
yeah, it might have been Luffy and Zoro. I think they only did
Yeah,
two, but obviously they might not release them all at once. They might try to build that hype. They're not going to release Nami first because
yeah,
they're just going to go ridiculous. I mean, if you look at some of the even before the live action, quite a lot of the expensive cards, like the Nami cards, obviously there's a reason why some of them are. Generally, a lot of them are very playable, but there's obviously a reason why some of them are. The items that I've seen people have the alt one, for instance, which I think is around £90. I've
yeah,
seen someone have multiple copies in Black Label, which was quite cool.
yeah.
So yeah, I think I'll be looking forward to picking up the live action cards just because it kind of makes sense having enjoyed it, and yeah, I definitely excited when they release the Nami one.
Especially if there's an Emily card. Yeah, Emily Rudd.
Look,
Um,
someone's gonna comment something like simps or something, but I think we
I ain't
definitely
denying
haven't
it.
both.
I'm not denying
Yeah,
it.
we definitely both haven't
Gotten over it yet.
haven't checked out their
Yeah.
their Instagram pages, and I definitely didn't post a edit real thing on my page either.
Waiting for that signed meet and greet to get that Nami card signed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Both booking a flight wherever it is in the world.
special guest next episode. You've heard it here first, right? She's coming on.
Yeah, she's coming on. She's a fan of anime. We'll talk. She
Oh
she might
yeah,
know what Y Schwartz says. So
probably. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, looking at like some of the reels and videos out there online. Yeah, she's like heavily into anime, like some just old series and just like not necessarily niche, but like other series that maybe aren't as mainstream, Made in Abyss and things like that. I heard a reference in some video, and I think she might be, yeah, she's a bit of a weeb. Let's be honest, like it's quite clear.
Mike's deep now. He's been watching the videos.
I'm into the documentary. No,
I haven't gone. Yeah, it's it's interesting. I think when you have people that are passionate about the things they do, right, it makes it.
I mean, I
it
guess
does show.
Yeah, I guess it's, you could probably say that's partly why the characters and the live action went so well. They have a lot of the cast had genuine interest in the show and anime in general.
Yeah.
So like that's that's obviously going to help. You're going to feel more passionate about what it is you're a part of naturally, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it's just overall it was amazing, and like I'm not gonna lie, like when it finished, like I am kind of lost. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
and like I know I said I'm gonna start watching One Piece. I know it's gonna be different. I know it's not. I'm attached to the live action characters as of right now. I mean, I love anime, so I know when it comes to watching the series, it won't take long, and I'll be invested in the anime version of it. But as of right now, it's like, yeah, I guess I've kind of put off watching it because I'm still in the live action frame of mind of like,
Yeah.
But I'll probably start next week if I'm honest. Well, when this goes up, I'd imagine I've probably started watching. Well, One Piece I'm gonna start watching, which is what you're doing as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was amazing. So yeah, it's
How
only a
long could we
matter
make
of
the episode
time.
about One Piece?
What's that?
How long could we make this episode about One Piece?
It could be the whole episode.
2-hour special. Yeah.
The One Piece special. Yeah, no. So actually, talking about like, I guess all of these successful TCGs. I mean, a lot of TCGs popped up within the last few years. Some successful, some not so successful. And do you think that like detracts from Pokemon in any way? We've got like Pokemon English sets right now, which are really good in terms of like the cards inside the sets. Like they're solid sets. People just don't want them. Perhaps that's partly to do with the economy. Perhaps it's partly to do with we've got all of these other TCGs that are doing well. I mean, just looking at us two, and I know that's that's an extreme bias, but because it's just us two on the podcast. But like you were in Pokemon for so long. I mean, we still dabble in Pokemon, right? But just nowhere near to the extent we used to. You now mainly collecting Flesh and Blood. I moved from Pokemon and now mainly collect White Shore. So a lot of the money that we would have otherwise put into Pokemon is now going into these other TCGs. And same with One Piece. There's people out there who collected a lot of Pokemon and now probably collect One Piece. So do you think is that taking a lot away from Pokemon?
Yeah, I think we're definitely in a golden era of TCGs again, and I think this is reminiscent of the early 2000s when we had just so much TCGs being made, and I mean, there's going to be people watching this that might remember it or they don't, but you obviously the early 2000s you had Pokemon, you had Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering was like the biggest. You had Digimon coming out. And you had, the Lord of the Rings. Every movie got a TCG. We had Spider-Man. We had Marvel. Every single movie and TV series seemed to get its own TCG. Upper Deck was a big part of that. They kind of really pushed making a lot of these TCGs. Decipher was really good. They had Star Wars as well as Lord of the Rings. And I remember just being a kid and spoilt for choice. And I do kind of wish I'd kept a lot of the binders from when I was a kid. I think a lot of it, part by the Pokemon stuff, I did get rid of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had shootouts as well, which are match attacks now, which still go. The football cards, and most kids were collecting one type of card game, and I feel like now we've got such a choice in TCGs. I think if I go back maybe 10 years ago, I think if I'm looking at 2013, right, there are other TCGs that were kind of there, but they weren't as big as obviously TCGs weren't as big as they are now, so it is a little bit hard to gauge.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the urge to collect as many TCGs back in 2013 that were current TCGs. I was still collecting a lot of games that weren't being made, which I know Matt spoke about when we had him on previously. But I wasn't collecting as many active TCGs back in sort of 10 years ago, and I think now I don't think I'm overwhelmed because I have kind of reeled it back a little bit. My main focus is Flesh and Blood. I have different goals with different TCGs. With Flesh and Blood, I am collecting. I'm all in. Like that's my passion. Pokemon, I'm just pretty much only grading what I already have. Um, it's grading, cards to sell and trade, to make more deals. The Pokemon is that kind of is really great because so many people collect it and stuff like that. So even though I'm not like 100% all in on Pokemon right now, the moves that I made previously and the things I collected before, I can grade cards now and trade them for cases of Magic the Gathering or this and that. One Piece, I've dabbled in and out for the last couple of years. Weiss Schwartz as well.
Yeah.
There's specific cards. I think it definitely does take away from Pokemon a little bit. There's going to be, as you just said, like already both of us. I mean, I don't want to look at how much money I used to spend on Pokemon, but it's hardly anything now, really.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't really buy much Pokemon stuff. I bar getting stuff like if I'm talking personal collection, because it's a little bit different if it's for the business, but if it's personal collection, I mean, I bought a Pokemon blister thing when I was on holiday early in the week, just because I was with my family and that,
Yeah.
and it reminded me why I don't buy Pokemon anyway. Because it was 4 packs and I didn't get anything. But yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? And I'm interested to see where it goes over the next 5 years because obviously Pokemon is still growing massively, right? So it's not like Pokemon isn't growing, and
Yeah.
we've got this trajectory where Pokemon is just sort of it's a small climb now. It's not a steep climb. It is just a general. It's just going over. We've got 3 English sets now for Scarlet Violet out. I think every single set of those is solid. We've talked
Yeah.
about this before. There's nothing wrong with the sets at all. I think the artwork is amazing, and I mean, seeing some of these cards leaked for the next set, the Groudon,
Yeah.
and the Snow Run. Most people will be looking at the Groudon, which is unreal, by the way. But the Snow Run for me as well, because I'm a big Snow Run fan. Like, I really like that we're getting these really pretty artistic illustration rares of Pokemon that aren't as popular, and that is a massive win for Pokemon, I think. And I don't think people realize just how big that is
Yeah.
because there's so many fans of Pokemon that are interested in Pokemon that have never seen Pokemon they like because they're not a stage 3 or stage 2 get these like ultra rare cards before. But now that Pokemon are going, do you know what? Let's have a look at our catalog. Let's give a couple of the lesser, loved Pokemon some nice cards and that because it's appealing to more people, really. Anything. But yeah, I think where do you? Obviously, you don't collect much Pokemon anymore, really.
No.
You obviously pick up the odd card here and there if you really like it. Where do you see? It's a big question, really. But in terms of TCGs over the next 5 years, I'm not asking for like the top 5 TCGs, but do you think Pokemon will continuously keep growing like it is now, or do you think because we've had dips in Pokemon before, right? Like the EX era was a massive dip.
Yeah.
Generally, people hit an age where they just kind of lost interest, and Pokemon. I don't want to say it crashed, but like the interest was very small. Do you think we're ever going to get like that with Pokemon? Do you think it's going to be a constant?
Well, it does kind of feel like that at the moment for English,
Yeah,
anyway. Um, but then there's still loads of excitement around other things within it. I think that's the thing. It's like not it's not the whole TCG that feels like that, but it's like it's just mainly English modern that feels like that, which is kind of weird. But I think it's always going to be like that from this point. I think there's too many people in it that there's never not going to be some sort of set or some sort of group of cards that are trending. I feel like there's always going to be a thing. There's always going to be hype and opportunity within the Pokemon TCG going forward now. I think that's not going to change. But yeah, I guess it's not really a dip. It's just sales and product aren't looking great, are they, in terms of English? I don't think it's going to like proper die off like it did back then. But yeah, I think it's still going to keep growing regardless. I think maybe what we're waiting for or missing at the moment is like some more like big excitement. I'm going back to One Piece again now. But like the live action One Piece, which has generated a lot of excitement for us and people that knew about the TCG and but never watched it. I guess we need like another Detective Pikachu, or we need like another big Pokemon thing, whether that's a new film, a new game. I feel like it needs something that switches it up, that I feel like it happens every 5 to 10 years, like with Pokemon Go. There's always something huge that they do which then just generates a crazy amount of excitement again. And that's just like a cycle that seems to happen, that they always seem to manage to do. And I think right now we're just kind of waiting for something like that to happen. And that's what it feels like to me. It feels like there hasn't been anything in a little while. And yeah, hopefully something like that comes along, and then the excitement just floods back in for some people who may have lost a little bit of it.
So what do you think is, because we've moved on a little bit since the waifu era now, what's the trend in Pokemon right now?
Oh, I mean, I can't tell you that. I don't know. I don't have a clue. Do you?
I haven't got. I was trying to think about it, really. That's why I was asking you. I was trying to think about it. I was like, what is hype? Because I mean, Pokemon Japanese 151's gone. It's open now. I don't see many people posting about the Master Balls anymore. A lot of those prices dropped massively. Even the big ones. I feel like obviously there's always a trend. There's always something in Pokemon. Maybe the fact that there isn't one that's being talked about massively right now or in everyone's faces.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that just feels like people just doing their thing and they're not following FOMO.
Well, I think the full art trainers and the waifus, I mean, as I said before, they've had too much time for it to have been a phase.
And not
like they had a hype, they had a hype period, don't get me wrong, but there's also tons of genuine interest in there. There will be tons of people right now who just collect full art trainers and that's their thing. They don't care if they become cheap. They're like, amazing, I can pick up so many that I've wanted for ages. Like it's established and people enjoy that. So, but yeah, in terms of hype, I don't feel like there's much going on at the moment. So maybe that's not helping. Do you think maybe, given that it feels like there's kind of no hype right now, because as you said, like 151, it's like kind of happened in Japanese. Do you think that when that comes out in English, that's going to be the next hype, essentially?
I guess it makes sense. It's naturally going to be. Honestly, I don't think it should be, just because I know that, I don't know if that's a bold statement to make, but I don't. The Japanese set has come out. Quite a lot of people I know in the hobby got involved in somewhat with the Japanese. I don't think the English set isn't great. Don't get me wrong. Like the cards they're amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't think. Yeah, maybe because I'm not so involved in the hobby anymore, it's a little bit different, isn't it? It's very hard to gauge because it's
definitely.
like, but I don't think that it's that special, honestly. And I think when we said about like an event we need to happen, obviously we've got another Detective Pikachu game coming out. Obviously, we don't know anything yet about a movie, which I'm hoping we get another movie. But I know Ryan Reynolds
Yeah.
is really busy. But if we get another movie, we'll get him on the poddy. It's
Did he
fine.
tell you?
Um, yeah, we were just chatting the other day anyway. So, but yeah, I think I mean I want a Let's Go Johto game.
Yeah.
Like we both
Yeah.
talked about how much we like the Let's Go games.
Yeah.
They're just a lot of fun, and I know someone commented when we spoke about a few people commented on the video anyway about how they didn't like the fact that you couldn't it was catching Pokemon stuff, but that's what the game is about. Either that or someone commented about a Legend Celebi game, which would be good. That would be quite cool. I think different games like that are kind of different from the main series. Maybe another Pokemon Stadium game. I don't know, but we definitely feel like we need a Pokemon event.
Yeah.
Maybe the excitement will come back. Obviously, we had Worlds and stuff, but that came and went like in a flash, really.
Yeah, and I
I
don't.
think,
It's not necessarily an event. It's not like a
yeah,
yeah. Like that. Worlds is
yeah,
always going to happen. Like that's not out of the ordinary.
yeah. I think also the fact that Pokemon probably have this timeline, right, where they plan stuff, and I think obviously we had Pokemon Go, and then we had the big event after that with like the boom and stuff like that. It could be a couple of years, as we've talked about before we generally have just a genuine amount of excitement entering the hobby
Yeah.
again. But that's a great time to be collecting and finding what you enjoy in the hobby. When there's less noise around and people talking about, buy this, buy that. Oh my god, this is hype. Times like this really are really good times to be collecting and just we talk about some stuff you could pick up before, but I'm not going to do that this time. I think enjoy the hobby and kind of find the things you want to get, because there's going to be so many cards and so many sets and so many different eras and stuff right now that is not being focused on. People might not be honestly know really much about it, and I think that's probably a really good time to be getting into the hobby and sort of finding what you enjoy.
Yeah, and I guess because there's not necessarily as much hype around certain things, that's like the perfect time to do it, because you won't be buying into like hype prices or being like persuaded into other cars because you keep seeing them posted, they're trending. It's the time where you can really dig deep through set lists and hand pick things out for yourself rather than kind of get force fed into collecting something because it's what everyone else is doing. And yeah, they look nice, and yeah, it's the issue with social media, right? You want what everyone's posting about, especially when it looks nice. It's just draws your attention to it more. You're more aware of it, and there's tons of sets and cards out there that I still don't really see posted like at all. And I know there's cards that I love and I've bought from sets from literally doing that. I think couple years back, I literally went on like a Pokelector app and then just clicked through sets, like clicked through old sets, like black and white sets. I was like, oh damn, like this, these cards here look really nice. Start looking into them. Obviously, they're not hyped or anything whatsoever. I'm just exploring sets, and that led me to picking up a lot of the black and white Legendary Treasures set, which had the Radiant Collection subset in it. And yeah, I think I opened a couple of them on some like video calls with you and some other people in the group and things. So it's perfect for things like that, right? It's perfect to have those little moments to yourself and find something you really love, or perhaps explore a Pokemon that you like, and then be like, right, let's look at all of the cards for that Pokemon and maybe start collecting something like that.
Yeah, it's perfect. Pick. I want to talk about this Weiss Schwartz collection video that you made,
Oh,
because I've
okay.
watched it. I really enjoyed it. I love collection videos like that. That's one of the things I really enjoy. And obviously, I knew some bits that were in your collection, but where you don't post a lot about your collection, so much of it I'd never seen before. And I mean, some of it I'd never even ever seen, like, let alone knowing that you owned it, but I'd never seen it before.
That's really
So it was,
surprising.
yeah, it
It's
was,
hard
and
to,
that's the
yeah.
thing. That's the thing, right? And I think that's why these collection videos are so interesting to see. And I loved seeing the different cards, and you know, I'm jealous of some of the Asuna cards that you got in tens, honestly. But you knew that was you knew I was going to say that anyway. But yeah, in terms of like, obviously there's a lot of work involved. If we put aside the amount of editing you got to do and putting the video together,
Yeah.
just getting the stuff together. Like, what was the biggest difficulty for you making that video?
Pricing, 100%.
Yeah,
Because it's White Shores. If it's Pokemon, you can just hop on eBay, last sold, done. There's so much more. There's so much more to do. I think I mentioned it about one card in particular, like the ReZero Ram SP from like 2018, 2019. Like it's an old White Shores set. It's pre like the 2020 White Shores collector interest. It's really hard to price. It's like I had to kind of guess. I had to base it off another card from that set, which I know is definitely worth more, and then kind of just be like, wow, if that one's worth that, it's probably worth this. And I guess I said that in the video is like maybe some of these cards are 10, 20% overvalued, undervalued. You know, it's an average. It's just I'm not trying to sell these cards, so like don't take the prices, you know, completely literally. It's a difficult one to do. So yeah, for that video, it was definitely the pricing which was most difficult. Again, I think getting all the stuff out, like some of it's in storage and things. Just trying to get it all together and then figure out like what order to do things in. It's just, I guess, really simple things that I guess if you're not making videos, you don't consider. But it's like, do I do all the PSA cards or do I do it in like a set thing? Like, okay, well, I've got characters from different sets. Do I cover the sets, but then I'm going between raw BGS PSA cards? Like, I don't know. I think I ended up just deciding to do it in terms of like value. So start with like the most expensive, because I mean, generally, if the video ends up getting suggested to people who don't know my channel, don't know my content, and gets pushed in that sort of way, then people probably click that because of the $20,000 plus in the title, in the thumbnail. So my thought process there was like, they immediately will want to know the most expensive. I'm not going to start with the cheapest ones because people are going to get bored. So yeah, it was surprising. Like, I know I wanted to do it. I had a comment before on some previous videos, like, oh, you know, can you show off like everything else that you've got? I'd be really interested to see from people I know within the White Shores community. But yeah, it definitely, like, I knew it would take quite some time, but it still definitely took longer than I was expecting it to. But it's done now, right? So it's you know, it's done, it's out there. I've priced it up, so I've also got that benefit. Like, I know roughly how much things are worth, not that they're super liquid or anything, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it was good to do something different, and it's been on my list for ages to make that. So yeah, hopefully I can see you do something similar with Flesh and Blood soon.
yeah. I think collection videos are really interesting because it's a video that I've put polls on my YouTube before, and I did my top 10 BGS slabs before for Flesh and Blood, and that video did really well.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
People have asked since to show the full collection. I think, as you say, getting stuff out. For me, I'm never going to be able to do a full collection video because I have like hundreds of cases in storage, so I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. There's ways I can do it, but in terms of like, I can be at different places and record different segments. But I'm far too lazy for that, probably.
No.
I'll probably just do a video of like my sealed stuff that I've got here, my graded stuff that I've got, and then probably just some random higher value items. But I think where I've got binders of sets, I've got valuable cards in the binders for every set. So then I'll just have to go through those. Yeah, it'll be a lot of work, as you said. Like, there was a lot of work by preparation with the stuff like that. I think I'll definitely do it one day if I have a couple of days free together.
Yeah,
I'll just I'll do that, film some different clips together, and kind of mash it all in when I've got to grips with in editing and stuff. But yeah, it's an exciting thing, and I think it's really good as well for it's a good timestamp.
Yeah.
to be able to look back at and see, you know, this is what my collection was here. This was the value then, because we know that the values can drop as well. Like, you know, people talk about collection videos and they talk about, oh, the collection's going to keep going up, but there is, you know, there is a chance that when you make the next video, the values have gone down a little bit for a lot of
Yeah,
these cards. Where it's, you know, it's not like Pokemon and or even with Pokemon, but it's the price data is really hard to get. That's going to be something that I'm going to struggle
yeah,
with my stuff as well. And I already struggled it when I did my just top 10
yeah,
because there isn't always sales. And if there is, you know, there's another one is like if there was free sales this year, um,
yeah.
you know, two might have been in January and then the other one was in like June, and it's like, well, what's the value in September? So
Yeah, and then you've got
it
to look at
is,
raw prices as well and try and think, oh,
yeah,
but the raw card's gone up, so really yeah, there's so much there.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of cogs in the machine, but I'll definitely do a video at some point. I'd be interested to see. I've got my graded card collection. I've got a spreadsheet anyway for the values,
Oh, okay.
so I've got something to work off when I do it. But again, the values might have dropped completely since I did that. So
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of that. I guess even if you're doing a Pokemon one, you're still gonna have to look up sold data
yeah,
for every single thing in that video. I guess the alternative is you don't necessarily put prices on the screen. You just say, $20,000 collection video, and then you just show everything off.
yeah,
There is that. I just had in my mind I wanted to. Well, to work that, I guess that's the problem. To work that out, I have to work out the prices anyway for each card.
yeah,
So at that point, it's like, well, I may as well just put it in the video. um,
yeah,
but yeah, it's something different, and I guess I'll see how it goes. At this point, I mean, I only posted it yesterday, and I can see that YouTube has been like suggesting it out, but it's just at kind of the standard views for my channel at the moment. But yeah, something different. Obviously, the filming style was a little bit different as well. But yeah, I enjoyed doing it, and like you said, it's a good timestamp. Maybe you can like look back on it and see like, you might sell things from your collection as well, and you can be like, oh, I remember when I had that and I sold it, or like,
yeah,
what have I done? So
yeah,
yeah, definitely something different, and I think it is, like you said, something that people are always interested in. Like even you saying that you're surprised about what I had is surprising to me. If you know what I mean, like you just assume
yeah,
that you've posted everything, or I don't know, like you just get used to knowing what you have, that you assume everyone knows it. I guess it's the same with Pokemon. Like the things I have in my Pokemon collection, like a lot of people won't know because they might have started following me in the last year. I know I've got like some of my old Watsy boxes on my Instagram and things like pinned, but because I don't post it anymore, I feel like with collecting and like specifically the Instagram community, I feel like people assume that you buy something, you post it, and then if you don't post it for a few months, you probably sold it. I feel like
yeah,
generally that's what a lot of people do. They buy
yeah,
something, keep it, appreciate it, and then when they get bored of it and they want something else, they generally fund that next purchase with their other card, so it then gets sold. Whereas for me, I've always hated selling things, so I've always tried to put more of my own money back in, and because of that, I think it's happened in the past with people. Yeah, people just have no idea what I have, even though you could scroll down and find it on my Instagram. I guess they just assume that that was like 4 years
yeah.
ago, so I don't have it.
You
I'm
haven't
like,
got
no,
it
no,
anymore.
it's
Yeah,
still sat there. Like I still have that card. I just don't want to sell it. um, so yes,
yeah,
it's yes. I guess it's a good way to just literally show exactly what you have. But yeah, we'll see how it does.
yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting. I think it's one of those videos that will do well long term. I think it has a feeling that it's going to be one of those.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've already got some comments on it about the TCG being dead or something. How's it worth any money? So that's a good
Well,
sign, right? Hey,
yeah, that's always good. Yeah, I always await those comments.
Yeah.
I always get those kind of comments on Flesh and Blood stuff. So
Did you have is there anything else you wanted to go over? I'm just conscious of time, and we probably
yeah,
haven't
I
covered
think
too much.
No, yeah, I think we always do it. We'll just stuff just constantly roll. Well, I say constantly, it will constantly roll on, and eventually, it'll just kind of it'll get removed off the list. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
we pretty much covered. We knew One Piece was going to be the main topic of this video anyway. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but yeah, it was. It's still fresh in both of our heads, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've got a little bit of a different format in terms of the video today. I mean, you are at some point getting the same webcam that I'm using right now, so
yeah,
that will come through clearer. But yeah, I just want to know your guys' thoughts. If you're watching this rather than listening on Spotify, let us know if you prefer it just being like full screen like this rather than us being tiny and a massive background. So yeah, feedback's really appreciated for things like that. So we know what you prefer going forward and how we can improve the podcast in general. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe. And we've also got the Card Crunchers Clips channel. I'll put it in the description. But yeah, if you're more interested in particular topics like just Pokemon or just Fab or just Weiss, then obviously like we clip the segments out and make those videos. So if you find that easier to watch and more enjoyable, go give that a subscribe and you can obviously watch the content on there. We post that the following week after the episode comes out. But yeah, give us a follow on Spotify if you're listening on there. And yeah, as always, thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
thank you.